What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated three-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the WBO welterweight world champion, and is widely considered the #1 pound-for-pound boxer in the world, was in action this past Saturday night, November 14th, as he took on former IBF welterweight world champion British superstar boxer Special K KELL BROOK, in which it saw Terence Crawford be successful in knocking KELL BROOK out in dramatic fashion in the fourth round of the fight. With that said, everybody was shocked by the comments made by his legendary promoter, top-ranked CEO in Bob Arum, who stated that Terence Crawford had cost him in his last three fights more money than he actually earned. So Bob Arum stated that he understands not signing Terence Crawford is a strong possibility because he don't want to go bankrupt on Terence Crawford, right? He said the money that I lost on Terence Crawford in these last three fights, I could build a mansion in Beverly Hills. This is what Bob Arum had to say regarding Terence Crawford. But this fight right here, Terence Crawford, this was his first big name opponent on his resume, the biggest name opponent on his resume, right? And that coming in the form of KELL BROOK, who has been in high-profile marquee fights. And this is the first time Terence Crawford has been in such a fight. Terence Crawford, also, before this fight, his lawyer reached out to Top Rank, and they let them know, they expressed their displeasure with the way he's been handled and not being able to secure these big, massive, lucrative money fights. And Terence Crawford, in an interview he did with Andre Ward on a special on ESPN called Relentless, he stated that he has yet to have that big, massive name, legendary top pound-for-pound fighter on his resume, and he's looking for that guy. So a lot of people feel like Terence Crawford is not a big draw. He had two pay-per-views in which he fought Amir King Kong, former multi-division world champion, and he also fought on pay-per-view against Victor Postol, who was at the time at junior welterweight perceived as the boogeyman in the junior welterweight 140-pound limit. He was Sergey Kovalev, and he was, Sergey Kovalev, and he was Triple G before Triple G and Sergey Kovalev, all around the same time, should I say. So with that said, a lot of people feel like Terence Crawford is just not a big draw. Combined, I believe he did 120 to 150,000 pay-per-view buys combined, his two pay-per-views. So they just wasn't that successful. And with that said, Bob Arum is not happy about that. So with this fight, his first real marquee name on his resume, he got with KELL BROOK. He does on free TV 2 million views. Now, a lot of people are looking at that as a huge success, 2 million views. But yes, it is a success. But when you look at his counterparts at the welterweight division, on free TV, they're doing massive numbers, okay? Luis Ortiz just fought Alexander Flores, and he did over 1 million views, and that's not a big fight. That's not a marquee fight. Luis Ortiz was knocked out twice already in his career. Not too many people know who Alexander Flores is. So that wasn't a big fight, and it ended in 45, 46 seconds on top of it, and it did over 1 million views on free TV. Then you had Shawn Porter, two-time welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, who is looking for a showdown with Terence Crawford. Shawn Porter against Formella, relatively unknown opponent. Shawn Porter is somebody that's perceived as not being a big draw. Shawn Porter can't sell. That's how he's perceived within the sport of boxing. And Shawn Porter with Formella did 1.2 million views, 1.2 million views. Formella is not a big name opponent, never been a champion. Shawn Porter is not perceived as a big name and not a big draw, but yet they still did 1.2 million views. And obviously, we know Errol the True Spence Jr., the direct rival of Terence Crawford, which is the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. Errol Spence Jr. is undefeated, unified champion, WBC, IBF. He's a two-belt holder, undefeated, superstar boxer. He did, against Leonard Bundu, another relatively unknown fighter, he did a whopping 6 million views. Now, I know it was set up perfect because Errol Spence Jr. and Leonard Bundu, they fought immediately following the Olympics. So it was time, right? It was promoted properly. That speaks volumes. PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, and Al Heyman, founder and advisor on the PBC, he knows how to move his fighters. He knows how to promote them. He knows how to get maximize and how to get the most out of their star power. And so he knew to put Errol Spence and Bundu immediately following the Olympics, and it did 6 million views. He moved correctly with Sean Porter, who's not perceived. He has multiple losses on his resume. He lost to Kell Brook, he lost to Keith Thurman, and he lost to Errol Spence Jr. But with that said, he has 3 losses on his resume. He's not a world champion. He's not perceived as the best fighter in the world. And yet he fought a guy in Formella who's relatively unknown within the sport of boxing. And Formella and Sean Porter headlined the card, and they did 1.2 million views. So we know that the PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, they know how to move their fighters correctly. For Terence Crawford to be widely considered the #1 fighter in the world, and a world champion, and a 3-division world champion, his accomplishments exceed that of Sean Porter, right? His accomplishments exceed that of Errol Spence Jr. But yet they are doing whopping numbers. Can you imagine if Sean Porter had fought a formidable foe, a name, a somewhat relative name? He would have did well over 2 million views. He did 1.2 million views with Formella. So if you put Sean Porter in the ring with a guy that people could identify with, he could do another 800,000 views. So you put Kell Brook, who's a known fighter, and you put Terence Crawford, who's a very known fighter, in the ring. Both guys are very, very well known in the sport of boxing, and they do 2 million views. Now, this is good numbers for Terence Crawford because, like I said, he's being perceived as not being a draw. But this just goes to show the lack of promotion Terence Crawford is receiving, and the lack of where that people have and know who Terence Crawford is, because he fought on ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, immediately following, get this, college football. So he transitioned, it overlapped each other, actually. And so that fan base should have fell right into Terence Crawford's lap. But yet, it's still maxed out. It did 1.7, and it maxed out at 2 million views, a little over 2 million views. Terence Crawford needs to be promoted better. Terence Crawford needs to be a superstar in the sport of boxing, not just considered the best fighter in the world. No, he should be a crossover superstar at this point in time. He has all the skills. He's knocked out every opponent he's faced at welterweight since making his debut. He made his debut against Jeff Horn. He stopped Jeff Horn. He fought Jose Benavidez. He stopped Jose Benavidez. He fought Amir Khan. He stopped Amir Khan. He fought Igis Kavalauskas. He stops Igis Kavalauskas. He fights Kell Brook, and he stops Kell Brook in dramatic fashion. 5 knockouts in a row, 5 stoppages in a row in the welterweight division. This is somebody that should be a crossover superstar. And this is lack of promotion and lack of promotion personally on his own part from Terence Crawford. Him promoting himself and the promotional company promoting him. As Bob Arum said, that Terence Crawford needs to promote himself like Teofimo Lopez and Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, Manny Pacquiao, and Miguel Cotto did. Shakur Stevenson. He said he needs to promote himself like these guys, right? And this just goes to show 2 million is considered, 2 million on free TV for Terence Crawford is considered whopping. And like I said, Luis Ortiz and Flores did over 1 million views. That's not a big fight out of hardcore boxing fans. That's not a big fight at all whatsoever. Sean Porter, like I said, people say he can't sell. Sean Porter did 1.2 million views, so he only did 800,000 less pay-per-views. Less views, free views, than Terence Crawford and Kell Brook, which is a higher profile fight. So you're going to have guys rave about 2 million views, but it should be far higher. He should do at least 3 million views when it's free on free TV. When you're putting Terence Crawford, a guy of the caliber of Terence Crawford, with another former world champion, it should do at least 3 million views. Again, if you put Sean Porter or Keith Thurman at this point, at this stage in Keith Thurman's career, and you replace Keith Thurman with Terence Crawford, and he fights Kell Brook on Fox, it is going to do at least 2.5 million views. I can guarantee you that. It's going to do at least 2.5 million views. Terence Crawford's star status should be much higher than what it is. Now, again, this is not bad. I'm just saying, for the level of fighter and the level of caliber and the best fighter in the world fighting on free TV, he should do far bigger numbers than what he's doing, because of the lack of self-promotion and the lack of promotion on the part of his promotional company. They're both doing themselves a disservice. Again, now if you put Terence Crawford in the ring with Sean Porter, I think that would do at least 4 million views if it was on free TV. And if it was on pay-per-view, I think that Sean Porter, Terence Crawford would do at least 500, 400, maybe, no, I would say about 300, 250 to 300,000 pay-per-view buys today's time. 250 to 300,000 pay-per-view buys today's time. It should be able to exceed that. But then you have to look at it from this standpoint. All the people that are saying Sean Porter's not a big draw, essentially you would have to say that Sean Porter would be carrying the card. He would be the bigger name on the card, right? Obviously, if Terence Crawford gets a fight with Errol Spence, it's going to be massive. But can you separate, I can't get the word out, tongue-tied. Can you separate who would be carrying the card between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford if they fought? Differentiate. You can't get it. You wouldn't be able to do it, because they're both superstars in the sport, but you will not be able to separate, since I'm tongue-tied, I can't say the word, you will not be able to separate who's carrying the card, but more than likely, you will have to lean towards Errol Spence, right? Keith Thurman, how would you know? Keith Thurman fought on free TV, and Keith Thurman has done massive numbers, right, on free TV. Then you have to look at the standpoint of Mikey Garcia, Danny Garcia, right? These guys are doing massive numbers. Compared to the numbers that Terence Crawford is doing, he should be doing much bigger numbers for his star status. He should be a superstar, like Floyd Mayweather said. Terence Crawford should be a much bigger star than this. Nobody should be raving about him doing only 2 million views on free TV. He should be doing, if Errol Spence fought on free TV right now against a guy level of Kell Brook, former champion or champion currently, he would do massive numbers. Terence Crawford needs to be promoted better, self and promotional company. They both need to do a better disservice to his career and his legacy. A better service, should I say. They should both be doing a better service to his legacy and his career. Point blank and period. So 2 million is good numbers. I would love to see Terence Crawford in there with Sean Porter. If Sean Porter could do 1.2 million views with Formella, imagine what the numbers would have been if this was Sean Porter versus Kell Brook. Sean Porter versus Terence Crawford. It would have exceeded 2 million views, guaranteed. Sean Porter against Formella did 1.2 million. So if you put Sean Porter in there with Terence Crawford, it does at least 3 million views on free TV. So let's see. Bob Arum stated that Terence Crawford has signed, 2 more fights in another year to Top Rank. October 2021, his contract is up. Let's see if he looks to get a buyout or he just go ahead and wait till it expires. But Terence Crawford needs a change. He definitely should be a much bigger star than what he is and how he's perceived. He's the best fighter in the world, and it needs to be, his star status needs to reflect that. But drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Raw. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.